Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Whiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Whiz. Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes. So let me ask you, do you want to know how to achieve greater results without adding more work hours? Imagine being able to spend more time doing the things that you love and do it in a way that's wildly profitable. Today, our guest is Melanie Benson, and she is an optimizer and has a gift for guiding fast-paced, mission-driven entrepreneurs to thrive as they emerge as leaders in their business and industry. With over 15 years mentoring high-achieving game changers, Melanie is a revenue strategist, removing productivity and progress derailers while identifying high-payoff, profit-boosting opportunities that position the entrepreneur to achieve their dream business. Melanie is a lifestyle enthusiast and spends her free time in search of the best spas and beaches in the world. Welcome, Melanie.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks for having me. It's great to reconnect after all these years.
Yes, it is, and it's my pleasure. I'm excited to have you today. I love your message. I love everything about you. It's always so much fun getting this chance to interview and work with some of the mentors that I've had in the past, such as you, that really has a lot to do with my own success. So thank you.
Honored to be here.
I always like to start by asking my guests to describe a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success.
Yeah, well, you're asking me to pick one. There's been many. I think anybody who's been in business for a while would say that, there's going to be a lot of mountains to climb. I've been doing this 16 years. According to LinkedIn, it just was popping up that I'm celebrating my 16th year, not an anniversary, I guess, but, years in business. And one of the early things that was a really big pivot point for me was about 18 months in. I realized that all of my colleagues were having this great success, and somehow I felt a little stuck. And when I started to, research what it was going to take to get more business, to get more clients, I realized it had very little to do with my action and a lot to do with what was going on up here. And I was carrying around a set of beliefs that were really limiting me. And so, yes, I had to learn to do a lot of things. Yes, there was a lot of things that I didn't understand about marketing. And, I had cash flow struggles, and I didn't have a plan to save my life at that time. I was really winging it on a prayer. But what was the biggest challenge was what I was telling myself every day. And I realized very quickly that I could learn how to do just about everything. But what we can't really learn, we have to recondition, is the way we think. And so I did some very deep work. And this story because I teach this all the time, but I did a lot of work around what were the thoughts and the beliefs and basically the blueprint of somebody who was wildly successful. And to me at that time, it was I just wanted to break six figures. I didn't even see a picture bigger than that. I just wanted to hit that milestone. It felt really significant to me. And I was so far away from it. I was stuck at around $1,000 a month, which living in LA is very hard to live on. And doing the mindset, it's kind of poverty level. But doing the mindset work did three things. One, I created inspiration where before I had massive blocks. If you had said, do you like marketing and are you excited to market your business? I've been like, no, God, I hate marketing. I feel so slimy. Now I love the idea of marketing because it means I'm going to inspire other people to make great shifts in their world. If you had asked me if I liked sales, I would have said, no, God, that means, like I'm going to be like a used car person.
Pushy salesperson.
Yes. And who wants that? And doing the mindset work, I realized it had nothing to do with me pushing anything on someone else. But when you're doing sales in a very powerful and inspired way, you're inviting people to solve problems they deeply want to solve. So there was a lot of things that shifted, but the biggest one was I was no longer strapped for cash. Things that I had been unwilling to do all of a sudden felt easy, and it all stemmed from reconditioning the way my mind was about money and success. And so there's a lot more to how that works, which we don't have time to get into today.
Right.
But people always focus on the outside, but I always work with my clients on the inside, because when you're aligned and you're taking aligned right action, you're unstoppable, and things seem to happen a lot easier.
And I love that you said the willingness, what you're willing to do.
Yes.
Because we need to be willing to take the right action at the right time for the right reasons. A lot of times people say, well, why do you have to be in the right mindset? There's people out there, I always say like Scrooges, that make a lot of money, but they're unhappy and miserable. And really, nobody's going into business to be unhappy and miserable.
Yeah, we could get a job and do that just as easily. Actually, easier.
And I know, too, you say that our mindset, it silently drives every single action we take or we don't take.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain how the mindset drives that?
Well, this was a huge aha moment. We've all probably seen that ad back in the 80s of the guy who kind of smacks himself upside the head and said, I should have had a V8. It's kind of that moment. And the mindset, what I discovered that was so valuable was that our mindset is our collection of thoughts and beliefs and ideas that we hold about any subject. It could be family, it could be love, it can be our health, it could be our weight, it could be our money and success. So it really works in every area of our lives. But as it pertains to money and success, whatever belief we have about something, our mind creates this picture, and then our body starts to feel a feeling. We can have an emotional reaction to it. And so that emotional reaction is either making us feel powerful, motivated, and inspired, which causes us to take action, or it's causing us to feel deflated, disengaged, and unmotivated, which means we will not take action. And so, having done this work for 16 years now, the last 5 or 6 years, I've worked very deeply on the mindset side of things. Is I realized that people don't take action because they're procrastinating. Let me say that better. They're not procrastinating because they don't want to take an action. They're procrastinating because they're deeply in conflict with something that they think they want, but they don't really see how to get it, or the way to get it feels very painful to them. And so when people are not able to achieve certain levels of success, I guarantee you somewhere deep inside their mindset, they have put a limitation on how their ability to have that. So that's really what happens.
Would you say the underlying factor typically is fear of something? I mean, they're not taking action. Is it because they're afraid of success? They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of being called names. They're afraid they're going to lose something that they need.
Yeah, fear's a big one. There's actually 3 big reasons why I see people don't take the action they could or should. If you want to go into those right now.
I would love that, yeah.
Yeah. So fear is one that I think we're all very familiar with this idea, but the way fear actually shows up for most people is incognito. And so, we all know that if we have a fear of something, we're going to be resistant to it. So there's the fear of having something that we think we want and what that might mean, the fear of failing, the fear of losing something that's important to us. Those all make a lot of sense. Obviously nobody wants to feel pain, and so we would avoid that. And there's actually a name for it, and that's fear avoidance. And this shows up a lot where people do the least amount possible because they're avoiding what they might think is a painful outcome. So I have this a lot with really big, high-achieving clients. They get into this weird dance where they just do enough to not be drowning and not be in struggle, but they don't do enough to actually make that leap forward. But there's another variation on fear that kind of came to light a few years later for me, which was how our logic mind plays into fear. See, we're all smart, very capable people. That's why we started businesses in the first place. I mean, this is not easy, so we have to have a certain amount of stamina and gumption to do that. However, oftentimes the very thing we need to do to grow and to achieve the results we want is we hold ourselves back from it because we will rationally and logically have a reason why we shouldn't do it. But what I know is significant success and bold results are never arrived at through a logical path.
Can you repeat that, please? Bold success.
Bold success, and basically anything that's bigger than what we are right now, is never achieved through a logical path.
Very interesting, because we always want to be so logical.
Yes, we want to minimize the risk. We want to do the surefire approach. And we can do that to achieve the results we have right now. But if you want to create something new, you want to achieve something you've never done before, it is not in the logic mind how to get there. And the number one reason why people hold themselves back is because they don't know how to do it. That's where coaching comes in, for one thing. But this is a conversation we get to look at inside of our mind chatter of, am I giving myself a logical reason of why this isn't a good idea because I don't know how, or because it's not really aligned with my ultimate picture of success? And that's the deep discovery that everybody gets to do when they want to achieve bigger, bolder goals. It's my life work is helping people tap into that part of them that's much bigger and much more expansive than the way they're operating right now. So there's a couple other, I'll just cover them really quick. The second one is conflict. So conflict is basically when I achieve this, I feel like I'm going to lose that, so we don't do anything. This is where procrastination comes from. And it's, could be a fear of success, meaning I'm going to lose something. It could be fear of looking bad. There's a lot of ways that shows up, but ultimately we get hijacked energetically, because if we don't know how to achieve something without losing something important to us, we don't. So my big solution is to sort for the ands. How could I have this and that? So that's the teaser version of that one. And then
I've heard people say that they're afraid they're going to lose friends, or even that they're going to lose their self, or they're afraid they're going to become snobbish.
Or I won't have time for what's important to me. Or I had a lady who didn't want to do the things we were working on because she was afraid she would run out of time for her new husband, and she didn't want to lose the partner she deeply valued. And so it's almost like we have this unwritten rule in our minds that are guiding us all the time, saying, if you want more success, you have to lose something important. That's not the way it works. It's expansive. It's the and. And you have to change your paradigm, which leads us into the third thing that I see people do, is they have a very limited paradigm of what's possible. And if you can't see it as possible, you eliminate it as a possibility. Meaning, if you are somebody who have to see something as possible before you can go for it, and you don't see it as possible, you won't do it. It's like we live in a closet and all we see is what we shine the flashlight on.
Right.
That's how most people create and achieve success. So this is about shattering the paradigm of what you have believed was possible and taking the limits off. Okay. And that can look a lot of different ways. Even
in reality, it's interesting how many things we take in 1 second visually. I mean, I think it's something like 50, 60, 70,000. You may know exactly, but I was shocked to learn this. And so it's the same thing when we want to create success, is we're looking at all these 70 things, and it's what we're choosing to focus on, because nobody can completely take in that much at once, but our mind does. Right. And so isn't it go along the same way?
And let's give an example. This is something I worked with a client on a few years back. It's like, in her paradigm, she had to do it alone. Okay. So because somewhere back in her history, she had counted on some people and they weren't there for her. So she had created this story of successful people have to have their own backs, which is, there's a version of that that's true, but we can create much greater success by surrounding ourselves with people who help us achieve our goal. So, we can apply this to sales. We can apply it to any facet of business or relationship. And, that's where we put limits on ourselves because we haven't seen it out there yet. We don't really understand it's possible. We basically eradicate it from the field of possibility.
Right. And I know I tell my clients, you're probably similar. I may have gotten this from you, or I know Wayne Dyer. It's like, if there's somebody else out there that's done it, then you're able to do it too. That eradicates the belief that it's impossible.
Yes. And to flip that, create a belief that anything's possible. I just have to decide if I want it more than my fears of not knowing are.
Right. That's always the big one, the fear of the unknown.
Yep.
People want to know for sure what the outcome's going to be. And regardless what you do, you never know for sure what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, that's a popular one, getting outside the comfort zone. I just did a podcast episode on that myself because it's such a huge part of, like everybody has to push against that edge once in a while and step into the unknown.
Yeah. And I know that you have a business strategy that people can implement in as little as 15 minutes a day or just once. But what strategy do you have to share with the listeners today?
Well, I have a plethora of business tips and strategies, but I wanted to think of one that I really felt would fit what we're talking about here with mindset, because I believe our mindset sets the tone for everything we accomplish in a day. And so I'm on this kick right now of morning routines. I call it my morning power routine. And so I have a lot of clients who come to me over the years who are feeling a little bit stuck. They're not motivated. They're struggling to get past a lot of their fears and doubts and really get into positive momentum. So I created these morning rituals to help them, kind of get out of their own way. And so you can do it in 5 minutes. You can do it in 15 minutes. You can do it in an hour. It depends on how much time you want to dedicate to it. But the simple version is this. Before you get out of bed in the morning, you start your day with a positive, inspiring intention. And it could be something as simple as, today I'm going to flow with grace and ease. Okay, I have a couple clients that use that one all the time because they have a lot of stressful things that happen through their business. It could be that you get very clear and intentional about certain outcomes or feelings you want to create that day. But getting that intention clear before you even get out of your bed, what it does is it locks it in a very high vibrational state, because when we're sleeping and we're just waking up, our mind is in a state that's very moldable. So we can actually imprint into our basically into our DNA for the day how we're going to be by setting that positive intention. Now, the other things that I teach my clients, there's 3 non-negotiables. One of them is setting the intention, and then there's a lot of things you get to figure out what you want to do. But the other 2 things are, you have to have high nutrition and you have to have exercise. Now, somebody might go, oh my God, I can barely get out the door already without, being overwhelmed. Trust me, you can do this in 5 minutes. You can run in place for 5 minutes. You can do a plank pose and hold it for 1 minute, hopefully. For some of us, that's a little hard. You can do some really quick, what's called yoga flow poses, which just gets the energy boosting. Here's why that's important. First of all, we're oxygenating our cells. We're getting the stagnation from sleep off. And there's a lot of people who, especially coming out of burnout, their energy is really low in the morning anyway. And if their hormones are out of balance or their adrenals are burned out, their mornings are going to be shot. So doing the exercise gets us out of that lull and brings the inspiration up. And then the high nutrition is to really kick sugar and carb only to the curb and add protein and high quality nutrition, because we are putting high vibration fuel in to set the tone for the day. So that's my 15-minute tip, is do a morning power routine. I tell you, it will change your life. I had a client who started it last week. She called me up and she said, Melanie, she goes, I just booked $13,000 of business in the very first day because I was motivated to do some things that I always put off. It works really well.
It's interesting that you had mentioned this strategy, because a couple months ago, I just walk around my house, but whenever I get up, I walk for 5 minutes just around my house, because otherwise I would just, like I used to say, I'm not a morning person, and I would just sit there and be a zombie. But I noticed that 5-minute walk around my house really energizes me for the rest of the day.
That's great. So I'm going to challenge you to take it to the next level and do the morning power routine. I bet you'll be emailing me going, oh my God, I can't believe how my mornings are. It's very powerful what will happen. And it's simple.
Yeah, I do have my morning routine. I haven't done the intention before I get out of bed, but I have been working on the other two, so that's good.
Good. I love it.
And I do know, too, that you have an awesome gift that goes along with everything we've been speaking about for our listeners. So can you share a little bit about it?
Yeah, so a lot of people get curious about how I leapt from $1,000 to six figures in 9 months and how mindset played such a pivotal part of that. And so what I did is I wrote a downloadable book about that journey, what changed, what practices I integrated, as well as some research I've done on what I call the 7 core, I call them money DNA blueprints. They're the way we're wired about money and success. And this is from our old conditioned beliefs and, maybe things that have happened in our past, as well as what the blueprint I find most highly successful people have. So that's a gift I would love to give. And I know you're going to share the link to how to get there. It's downloadable, and it does lead to some more advanced free training if you're inspired and you want to go a little bit deeper into how to actually, get a mindset that is conditioned for high levels of success. Because the one thing, Cindy, I learned a lot over the years is we're in control of what's happening in our mind, not anyone else, and not our past.
Right.
And we can change any past situation by changing the way, we can't change the past, but we can change the effect it has on us by changing the way our belief systems are structured. And it's very powerful.
Because I've worked in the past a lot with people that's had trauma in their pasts.
Mm-hmm.
I always say your past does not define who you are. You get to define who you are this second, every single second of the day in it. And it's the same thing with the mindset. And I do encourage all the listeners, any training from Melanie's awesome, especially the money DNA. It's amazing some of the beliefs that we do hold. This was one of my first introductions to Melanie, was that program years ago. So all links that we mentioned on today's show can be found on bizsuccessin15.com. And you can also re-listen to today's show and download it. And you can catch up on past episodes from other top experts. So Melanie, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Oh, parting words. Well, I have this newfound appreciation for the power of a decision. And the power of our decisions are influencing the power of our results. And so if you don't like the results you have, make a new decision. Decide the outcome you want. And then, you're going to become more resourceful and more clear on how to get there. If you want new and different results, don't feel like you have to stay stuck where you are. Make a new decision. If you want a better quality of life as you're growing your business, which is something many of us are facing as we push ourselves so hard to achieve new levels of success, you can actually achieve it in a new way, but you have to decide you're worth it. You have to decide that you value your energy and your time away from your business just as much as the time in it. So everything you want starts with making a new decision. And that is a catalyst for all great outcomes.
Yeah, decision. I love that. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And thank you for being the guest today.
Yes.
I do want to tell our listeners, I hope that you enjoyed today's show. And be sure to visit bizsuccessin15.com and download Melanie's free gift. You will be amazed at what you're going to learn and discover about yourself just from reading it. And I do want to say big hugs and to you all, and be sure to tune in next week to Biz Success in 15 for another great guest. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.